Being a Muslim is so hard. Why can't I eat what I want? Why do I have to pray 5 times a day?
I no longer believe that women should submit to me or women being inferior to men.
I'm an ex-Muslim from the UK. I left Islam a year ago.
I left Islam about 7 years ago after discovering rather unpleasant details and practices of Prophet Muhammad.
In America, this is the last thing, 23% are becoming apostates of Muslims, American-born Muslims. If it's a leather sock, who cares if it's a leather sock or not, man? Your child is going to become an apostate.
I don't have to make excuses for why this is in the Quran or that is in the Quran for all the misogyny, terrorism, and violence.
I try really hard to defend Islam, but why is it only Muslims who commit terrorist attacks?
Do I have to wear hijab when I'm older? Why doesn't Daddy have to wear it?
How come sometimes I experience racism when I go to the mosque?
A Muslim man can marry 4 wives, but a woman can't? That seems pretty unfair.
The crazy, stupid stuff that I was kind of like, like this is a bit awkward, like why did that happen? Why did the Prophet do that? That kind of stuff, they like really brushed over it nicely.
My life was based on Islam and its teachings, and it was collapsing before my eyes.
If Islam was such a peaceful religion, we wouldn't have to spend so much time defending it. How can people twist it so easily? I don't know if I can follow a religion that makes it that easy to kill people.
Everyone is always pressuring women. Men never have to face the same pressures as we do. It seems as if we barely have any rights in Islam. I'm honestly having a hard time believing that Islam is...
In America, this is the last thing, 23% are becoming apostates of Muslims, American-born Muslims. If it's a leather sock, who cares if it's a leather sock or not, man? Your child is going to become an apostate.
And I think even some of these scholars, these Muslim imams, I think some of them are ex-Muslim, but they obviously have too much to lose.
These new Western reform versions of Islam is something that is never going to happen, and it's actually dangerous because it's suggesting to the West that there is a version of Islam that is not going to harm you.
Is the penalty for apostasy?
Before...
We keep coming down this apostasy.
Give us a quick answer on what is the penalty for apostasy, then we'll come and do this one.
You very well know, if it's an Islamic country, then the Sharia is very clear. Apostasy is dealt with the death penalty.
Thank you, that's all I want to hear.
I especially want to look at one aspect, the punishment of apostasy. When a person in an Islamic state apostatizes, leaves religion, let Allah be a witness that I'm telling the truth, that the punishment for apostasy is death. Anybody telling you on a member anything else, wallahi lazim.
Talk to too many people who have left the faith of our own children. And they say to me, we were taught lies. We were taught truths. It's not correct what we were taught.
If a Muslim hears from his leaders and apologists all his life that the Quran has been perfectly preserved right down to the letter and that this is a miracle of Islam, it's extremely easy for me to go through his sources and show him that the Quran was changed over and over and over again. And then the Muslim realizes that he's been lied to. He no longer trusts his leaders and apologists. He no other reason to believe in Islam, and so he leaves Islam.
Wallahi, you would wish, if you're a Salafi, that they become an Ash'ari before they become a disbeliever. And you would wish, if you're an Ash'ari, they become, and so on. Priorities. Most of the Ummah doesn't pray 5 times a day. Yani, come on, man. Like, seriously, do I have to even explain this to people? Like, it's important that we prioritize. Then we can have the healthy discussions when people have reached a certain level. We can't afford it here, I'm afraid to say. Otherwise, you're going to see the community is going to change face. And our preservation is going to be at risk. But you know what's going to happen? We're going to be eaten out from outside. We're talking about, you know what I'm trying to say? How to, it's not a leather sock, yes, a leather sock. Who cares if it's a leather sock or not, man? Your child is going to become an apostate. And you're talking about if it's a leather sock. How dare you, man? It's a leather sock, you know. Shut up! No, shut up!
I mean, statistically, they say that 1 in every 3 Muslims believes that leaving Islam is punishable by the death sentence. So what is it that makes you think that Islam is about to collapse?
When you look at what's happening with ISIS, when you look at the Islamic history for the past 1400 years, it has never been at peace. If the freedom to leave Islam was there, Islam would collapse. And I believe it will collapse eventually. It's happening now.
لم يتركوا الردة لو تركوا الردة ما كان هناك إسلام. كان انتهى الإسلام منذ وفاة الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام. فالوقوف أمام الردة هو الذي أبقى الإسلام.
And I believe it will collapse eventually. It's happening now. I see it as a cornered animal that is wounded and is lashing out in its last days.
Help me, help me. This is how some of our youth feel. Researchers show that over 100,000 Muslims leave Islam every single year. Our youth are full of doubts and nobody's answering their questions. And this is not only the problem, the majority of our youth are not even praying their 5 daily salah.
I think ISIS helped a lot with that too.
Yeah, no kidding. ISIS, the Muslim parents who are protesting at the Birmingham schools, like these kinds of images, they did help a lot.
Yeah, because like after 9/11, that was the thing that really shook my faith, where I was like, do I want to identify with the same ideology of these murderers? Do I want to be connected to these men in any way? Like, it really makes you start to question the ideology more. Like, you're not just living your life as a cultural Muslim and not really paying attention. These are my people. Like, wow, this is my community. I'm a part of this. And people were seeing that with ISIS. Like we talked earlier about how Muslims, they never read the Quran, they never read anything, they don't know, they're just living their lives. But when they see what ISIS is doing, and then they're like, what the hell? How are they Muslim and doing that? That doesn't make any sense. But then they get the counter argument, says, well, did you look at the Prophet's life? Did you see what he did? They're basically copying him. They're following the same footsteps. And then they start doing their homework. And then it's like this moment of like, holy shit.
Favorite video that I've seen with you is the apostasy tsunami. Great commentary. That calmed down my soul a bit.
The rise of apostasy. People are leaving Islam at unprecedented rates. The narrative of Islam being the fastest growing religion is no longer true. The Muslim community is now in damage control from this new threat. Dr. Bilal Phillips, in a recent Friday sermon, openly has warned the Muslim community that apostasy will come like a tsunami.
And if we don't take constructive steps to deal with this, it is going to become an avalanche, a tsunami that is going to hit our community in such a way that we will have a very difficult time standing. It will knock us over.
The tides are turning. In real life, I know many people who have left Islam, but the majority cannot come out publicly due to family pressure, social pressure, and community pressure. The number of ex-Muslims who are out is still a very small number. I personally know many individuals who admitted to me that they left Islam but cannot come out in the open. They cannot even tell their own brother or sister. They cannot tell their mom and dad. Some of them can't even tell their wife. Recently, an online conference was organized by 10 leading Islamic preachers to discuss the problem and tackle it. This is something I've never seen before growing up as a Muslim. Courses like this were unheard of. There's statistics as well to back up these claims. Bashir Mohammed, senior researcher at Pew, has stated that 23% of American Muslims no longer identify as Muslim. This means that as many people are leaving Islam as converting to it right now.
On the surface, they're pushing these slogans: Islam is the fastest growing religion, your grandchildren will be Muslims, your Muslims, and then, inside the mosque, they're having these conversations.
That is exactly what is happening in the Muslim community. I think it's unfortunate that, by the way, I spoke to the guy who Bilal Phillips was talking about in that video, the young Somali man that his family took him to speak to Bilal Phillips, and I know so many people like that. So many people. A lot of them still call themselves Muslims because, unfortunately, there's just too much risk to the life, not to them being killed, but there's too much. It'll be too unsettling to them to tell their family they're not Muslim. Either the wife will leave them, the parents will, have a breakdown. One guy I know, he's in his 40s and he doesn't want to tell his parents because they're in the 70s and 80s. And he doesn't want them to have like a heart attack or something. So I think it's just, we're not quite there yet that people can come out, but there's so many ex-Muslims, it's not even funny, So, let's end on that positive note that many people you don't actually know the ex-Muslims are actually ex-Muslim. And I think even some of these scholars, these Muslim imams, I think some of them are ex-Muslim, but they obviously have too much to lose.
All right, but
They are ex-Muslims, people who are leaving Islam entirely.
Amazed at the betrayal of Muslim women who, for whatever reason, have had an education and are able to emancipate themselves from Islamic law, insisting that Islamic law is not what it is and that we don't understand it. We live in the
religion from Islam to any other religion, the punishment should be death.
I was attacked from nowhere. I didn't see it coming.
I knew I had to get out or that was it.
What do you think your brother will do if they find out you're an atheist?
Kill me, maybe.
These new Western reform versions of Islam is something that is never going to happen, and it's actually dangerous because it's suggesting to the West that there is a version of Islam that is not going to harm you. So it's just a politically correct solution that is never going to fly, and is taking our attention away from the actual movement that is growing, that it does have a chance, that is the ex-Muslim movement.
hellfire is waiting for anyone who is rejecting Allah and His Messenger. Moreover, their families, they should not continue having any kind of relationship with them.
This is a time bomb of young people who are being traumatized, really.
Let me tell you something. Islam is very powerful. It's super powerful. It has the oil, the money, the countries. This is in the 21st century. This is in the free world. Where are your priorities? While we die there, you're all thinking about Islamophobia. You're all thinking about not going... People are getting put to death because of this fascist, theocratic religion. And all you think about is how can we give them more space? And how can we give them more rights? Yeah, we can be more tolerant. Would the other side be more tolerant? Would the other side give us what they are claiming? If Islam is the most powerful force in England, will it give you the rights that you're giving them? And I'm not asking you to take away the rights of religion, but I'm asking you to face that tsunami that's coming to you and to encourage that tsunami that we are doing by facing them off and by saying no. No, I can't leave.
It's a time when progressive all too often means protecting regressive identity politics, which homogenizes entire communities and societies and deems theocrats as the sole legitimate arbiters and gatekeepers of community values. It's a politics of betrayal. We are called aggressive apostates, fundamentalist secularists, native informants, inflammatory. We are accused of violating the safe spaces of Islamists and even inciting hatred. Don't believe it. That is the Islamist narrative. In the world today, it is we who are being slaughtered, not the other way around.
You cannot stop the deluge. They cannot stop what has started. We are not going to be silenced anymore.
I grew up in this religion. I studied it 16 years in the Moroccan schools. I speak Arabic. I was teaching Arabic in Egypt. So I know what I criticize. But if you, as Greek people, if Westerners, European people say the same as me, they tell them, oh, you are an Islamophobe. It means you are a racist. So shut your mouth.
So shut your mouth. So shut your mouth.
Islamophobia does not exist. Islamophobia as a concept or even as a theory does not exist. Phobia means irrational fear. Nobody is afraid of Islam as a religion sitting in a book. Okay? If I put a Quran in front of you, will you start to fear? Will you run away from me? So this whole notion of Islamophobia is a political game. It's a political game, and it only works in societies where people are weak-minded, morally and intellectually bankrupt.
High five! But when people like us have this speech, they cannot say we are racist. Okay, they may say we are the home Arab or self-hating Arab. I don't know, but it's not very serious. Okay, so those people, the fundamentalists in the countries where Islam is the religion of state, where they have the power, in those countries, if you criticize their religion, they just put you in jail or kill you. But in Europe, they have no legal tool to shut your mouth. So they accuse you of being Islamophobe, then racist.
The thing is, there are millions, and that's shown by polling data. There are millions of atheists, agnostics, secularists, free thinkers in the Muslim world, living in Muslim majority countries right now, who have to publicly identify as Muslims. If they speak up against it, if they express their views openly, they'll get disowned by their families, they can get marginalized by their communities, they lose their friends, they can be imprisoned, they can be executed. Atheism is punishable by death in 13 countries around the world, all of which are Muslim majority countries. And the cost of them coming out and publicly speaking their views, right, and shaking off the Muslim label are really, really, the consequences are